Welcome to the Peak Podcast. My name is Kyle Nelson, and I've got my good friend, my co-host, business partner, all types
What
of
other
things.
things, man? Yeah,
All
what other
types of
things?
things. Mr. Eli Libby, this is the Peak Podcast, like I said. On this podcast, we focus specifically on talking to coaches. And we want to really dive into exactly what their aha moment was. What was that pinnacle moment? What was that peak moment that they went through that felt like they had something more to bring to the world, and that is to become a coach. We are the founders of Peak Fulfillment, Solar Retreats, and Coaching. We help people go on 3-day solar retreats to really disconnect, to reconnect, and find who they are and what their passion is, what it is, that spark that they have in life, and really reignite that. And it is wholly guided self-reflection, self-discovery, and vision crafting. Go to peakfulfillment.co to learn more. But without further ado, we've got an awesome guest today that we're going to bring on. But before that, what's up, Eli? That was a lot of me just kind of going off.
That was a lot.
How are you doing today?
Doing good, man. You and I are both been slammed today. I know that we're excited for the show. This has kind of been the moment that we've been waiting for, is to be able to chat with another coach, like-minded coach. So I'm excited for this last little spark of energy. The one thing you did miss in the intro, I'm going to throw it out there. You said best friend, you said co-founder. You missed best man, dude. We got the wedding photos today, and you were the best man. Sure. So throwing that out there. Yeah,
lucky and blessed to be your best man.
Yes, next intro you got to tie that one in there.
Okay, I'll start.
I'm excited.
Yes, well, we have Jason Schreuder today. He's an executive coach and founder of Inspired Iterations, which is a leader development company. Let's bring him on. Jason, what is up? Welcome to the Peak Podcast.
Hey, Eli, Kyle. So glad to be here. Thanks for having me on today.
Dude, we're stoked to have you. It's an honor to be able to get you on our calendar and have a conversation. So thank you so much.
And thank you for your service as well. As mentioned. I know we said that in the pre-show, but I like to let our audience know that as well. So, Jason, again, man, welcome to the show. A quick icebreaker real quick. Before we dive in, let's just crack the ice. If you have 3 people at a dinner table, these can be dead or alive, who would they be?
Oh, my gosh.
Hit you with a hard one.
So, yeah, that's not a softball. That's not a softball.
Yeah, just going straight.
Let me try to
just going into it. Let's dive in. Let's get real.
All right. So I have been, and if I can give a little bit of a why here, I'm a big fan of Ryan Holiday. He's kind of reinvented stoicism for me, and kind of the teachings of the Greek greats in philosophy. So Marcus Aurelius would be awesome to have with him. I also just read a Lincoln biography, so I feel like Abraham Lincoln had an incredibly, though cut short, impactful life.
Totally.
And, just with kind of election on my mind and thinking about the presidency, Barack Obama would be a great person to interview. I just think he did a lot in 8 years, and I think all 3 of those men from like completely different eras.
I love it.
Absolutely. Would be really cool.
Oh, cool, man.
Absolutely.
Great answer.
Yeah.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, let's dive in, man. Let's dive in. So give us just a little bit of a nutshell in terms of what you're doing now, and we'll kind of pick it apart and dive over.
Yeah. So I have an executive coaching and leader development company called Inspired Iterations. I've actually had the company for a few years now. I incorporated back in 2019, but I was doing a lot of agile coaching and agile training at the time. But I'm kind of on what I like to call the 3rd chapter of my career. So you acknowledge my military service. Thanks so much for your support there. I spent almost a decade in the military, then almost another decade in corporate, in technology roles, agile transformations and working with teams. But what I realized was there's just a growing need for leader development, particularly in the space of navigating complexity and dealing with ambiguity, rate of change. And so as an agile coach and consultant for a long time, it was a lot of change management and helping teams and technology organizations, adapt new processes, find new ways of working. and it was all well and good, but there was always like a leadership ceiling, if you will, or bottleneck or limiting factor there that there couldn't be enough one-on-one coaching and leader development for them to help them embrace some of the complexity that goes along with transformation. So I went through my own journey the past couple of years to get all my coach training together, to get a ICF credential as a PCC. And last year just sort of went off on my own, rebranded Inspired Iterations to be more about executive coaching and leader development. And I've been working with a good client load since last year.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing about kind of your history and how you got started. What is it about leadership development? What is it for you? Why that? And just to follow up quickly after that, what was it like to get your first client in that space for you? What were the feelings you had? Yeah,
good. Because the answer to the second one kind of helps with the first, my why, awesome. I think. So listen, I went to West Point, which is one of the premier leadership academies in the world. And so as a young person, while trying to get good grades, but also, excel in like all the physical demands of that institution, and then the military training, everything you do there is about leadership, and it sets you up for success in a military career as an Army officer. But it gave me skills for life. It gave me skills that I'll always have with me. And while I worked with great leaders in the military, there's always a need to pass on some of that wisdom and learning. And
absolutely,
military is very focused on leader development.
Totally.
As I made the transition into corporate role a while ago, while I was trying to find a career path that would work for me, I had this sense in the back of my head that there's a real leadership gap. Opportunities out there for leaders really in any industry, any function, to get more personal professional development. And I had a vague idea of what coaching was at the time. And it was really more of a corollary from some of the work I was doing with teams.
Nice.
But it just, as I sort of climbed the ranks and got a couple of promotions during the pandemic and led a large team at a financial services organization, it became clear to me that some of the stuff that I was able to apply from my experience could benefit a lot of people. I was using it on my own managers. I was talking to my peers about it. And it just became clear to me that I almost felt sort of a calling to go out and serve others with coaching. And then I think the second piece of it is the coach training that I did sort of reinforced for me this idea that people are creative and resourceful and whole, and we're not, a coach is not there to solve problems, but to actually guide thinking, like not do thinking for the client, but guide their thinking and help them unlock their own potential. And so all the pennies sort of dropped for me. I was doing my coach training, like, hey, this is a really amazing way for me to serve a good amount of people, help them find their own path, their true purpose, the best way they can make an impact, and actually create more leaders in the world through, impacting one leader at a time. And so, last year started taking on my first batch of clients. And I think it was actually, Kyle, you asked, like, getting that first client. Well, that was gratifying. It was actually completing a 6-month engagement with that first client. Like taking someone through an entire sort of program that I had built, coming in with a little bit of an assessment and figuring out their strengths and weaknesses, and creating a development plan with them, and then watching them grow and develop over a 6-month period, and the person they became through that journey, and then how I sort of parted ways with them. That was just an incredible feeling. And I was like, I wish I could scale this, and you can't, right? With me coaching, I can't scale that more than, a handful of people at a time, but it's so gratifying.
It's awesome. Would you call part of that fulfillment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am fulfilled by helping others find what fulfills them, like what
got a lot in common
it is and what they're
Yes,
driving.
We do. Gosh,
it's awesome,
man. I was going to say the same thing, Kyle. So much alignment, man. First of all, I love what you said about kind of eating your own dog food. You were implementing all this stuff at your own level, right? And you're coaching that. So I think that is really cool. There's no, you're not being a hypocrite somewhere, which I think is just a sign of an amazing coach. The second part you said there is the coach isn't always the one that implements their thoughts and ideologies. It's really about that person inside and asking the right questions and giving them the right kind of bumper lanes to figure out that solution. And that's extremely similar to how Kyle and I view our program. Our solo retreat program is built around the answers inside of all of us, and you just kind of need that space and that solitude to kind of work through that. And the evolution of when they come back from 3 days, though maybe not as revolutionary as 6 months, we have that same feeling of gratitude to watch them find fulfillment or lock some aha moment or crack some limited belief about themselves in 3 days. So I just love that. And we can,
Yeah. And I think you hit on something that I've discovered and I've actually sort of woven into my chemistry session, my first conversation with a potential client. Like, why would I do coaching? Why would I even engage with this? And trying to articulate to someone that, listen, you're a leader. You are busy, like putting out fires, managing your team performance, trying to be strategic because your boss says you need to be more strategic and you want to get to the next level, and you're doing a million things. And oh, by the way, you probably have a family and a home life and hobbies and things you do outside of your work. You are likely not making time to work on yourself. So coaching is this precious window every couple weeks. And I imagine this 3-day solo retreat is just that, this precious time where you can actually work on yourself and develop and find solutions that are inside of you that you never knew were there.
Yeah. I think the cool part about coaching, our solo retreat, this style of work that we all do, is we are helping the individual give themselves permission to actually do the work. Permission is that's honestly one of the biggest hurdles out of all the different programs and coaches that we've learned from and talked to. It's just that first step, just getting them to just give themselves permission to work on themselves. Because like you said, we're so busy. There's so much going on. There's so much input, that you don't have enough time. You're not worthy. All those different limited beliefs and self-doubts kind of pop in there. But it's cool being able to guide people like, no, you are important. In order to show up for your family, you got to show up for yourself. How do you show up for yourself? What better way?
Right.
Be guided. Have someone help you. Give you a hand. So,
Jason, is there a figure or somebody in your life, a mentor or somebody that you look up to as an incredible leader, and maybe somebody that your values or maybe some of the things that you coach on are inspired by? Does that make sense? I'm just curious if who you kind of look up to as an incredible leader. And then a follow-up question to that would be, what is the trait they have that you think makes a great leader?
Yeah. So I've had the privilege of, I think many of us have had similar experiences of working with amazing leaders and some not very good leaders.
Yes.
And one of the things I often tell my clients, right, is you can actually learn a lot from a bad example too. So there is something to be gained from every experience, and having a growth mindset means you take the good and the bad and you learn from both. I definitely had a couple leaders in the military, not my direct supervisor, but 2 levels up, that were just incredibly, driven, charismatic, high energy. They brought passion to everything they did, but the ego was not the primary thing you see, right? Often those things kind of lead to a person who's not humble.
Yes.
And so seeing all that in someone who is humble, someone who is, empathetic and inclusive and can build teams with those same traits, and do that all with high integrity is really admirable. And I've, a couple of military leaders had that. I had one boss a couple years ago in a corporate role that had something very close to that, and I just put those values of integrity, humility, passion, accountability. That's what we would want in a team. That's what we want the person leading that team.
That's amazing, man. I think that's pretty similar to what we would say. Kyle, what would you think is like a trait of like a phenomenal leader that you've been inspired by? Is there one trait that you can think of that you think of when you think of a good leader?
I think a lot of it's just removing the ego and empathy. I think it's really important. Understanding that
empathy is a big one.
It's a real person that you're leading, and that they have feelings. And that sounds kind of wishy-washy in grade school, but you can just validate somebody's feelings and hear them out. I think that alone will build so much trust. To say, I hear you. I hear this is painful for you, or I hear that you're going through this. How can we work through this? And putting just place, action plans in place is really important.
I agree. I think the two buzzwords that come to my mind are emotional intelligence, so EQ, and humble. Those are like when I think of a good leader. That's kind of where my mind goes.
Why don't you have those?
So good.
Oh, man. Getting all serious there. Broken the ice on the seriousness.
That was good. I love
that. So, Jason, what inspires you to inspire others? What inspires you to want to help others rather than just like your story and your why? Because we all have these like amazing opportunities. We could go do other things. Like every day, what is that one thing that sticks with you that inspires you to be like, yeah, I chose the right thing. I'm going to make a difference today.
So I'm a father of 3. My kids are all in elementary school, and they keep me super busy. And that is its own, full-time
job,
raising tiny humans in this world. And I take my role as coach to my kids very serious.
Love that.
And I think one of the things that sort of helps me keep going when things are tough or challenging is like providing a better future for them. The world can be chaotic. The world is chaotic and scary. And there's a lot of things to be sort of nervous, afraid of, uncertain about. But the one thing we can control, I think, is our impact on others. And so if I can go out and work with other leaders and create, help them create systems that enhance their impact to do good and fulfill their purpose, then I'm raising my kids at the same time in a world where more of that is happening. So it seems very Pollyannish, and it seems very like drop in the ocean. How can he possibly make a difference? But I feel I feel like I'm making a little bit of change every week, every month.
The ripple effect is bigger than we'll ever know.
Yeah.
We won't know the small moments at the grocery store that someone is having a conversation that got brought from what we're delivering.
And seeing those aha moments in a client halfway through an engagement, or, hey, this article you shared with me, or this thing you said to me, 3 sessions ago, like I was able to put it into practice and it was great. Or, hey, you really helped me think through this thing that I was stuck on. And you're thinking to myself, I didn't do anything except ask a couple questions, but you created space for them to grow and reflect and learn, and then make some positive steps.
Very cool, man. Thank you so much for sharing your inspiration every day.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Huge.
So as we kind of wrap this up, Jason, a couple things. One, would love to know one actionable thing you could leave to our audience, or maybe something inspiring, just one last message, and then let everybody know how to get a hold of you, your website, LinkedIn, whatever that is. Where can they find more information?
I think, one thing that, and I actually I've had a couple conversations about this in the last couple months, this idea of self-awareness and time management. I think a lot of folks are feeling, particularly in this season, as a lot of corporate teams are going through performance management season and year-end, compensation and all of that mess, while still trying to like hit deadlines and get deliverables in Q4 before we hit the holidays. There's never enough time. And I think leaders get caught in this sort of doom swirl around time management. And I really like to help folks like shift their focus to attention management and be more present. And if you're going to do something, do it well, and choose where you put your attention, and don't let stress and anxiety about the lack of time, because we all get the same amount of time. It's how you use it, and it's how you choose to allocate your attention. So I would just ask listeners out there to reframe a little bit the time scarcity mindset to hey, I have a privilege and an abundance here of focus. Where do I want to? I've got a resource of focus. Where do I want to allocate that resource? And think of it as a give rather than a take.
Nailed it.
Boom.
Attention management is huge. I mean, self-awareness as well is
so cool.
That's all we talk about for the most part. And just having that intention in your day of the decisions you're making, and being aware of your emotions and how those emotions are really guiding all day long what decisions you're making.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Where can people find you, Jason, if they want to get involved with your program?
I'd love to connect on LinkedIn. Jason Schreuder. I think there's one professional chef named Jason Schreuder in Chicago. So hopefully you can find me. I'm the executive coach. And then inspirediterations.com is my website. Would love to connect with you there.
Awesome. Definitely be in the footnotes. And I apologize. I called you Jason Schreuder when I introduced you.
No problem at all.
Jason Schreuder. I got it at the end. Jason, dude, thank you so much. That was inspiring for us, and will be as well for the audience. And we really appreciate your time. We're honored that you were able to jump on.
This was a pleasure, real joy. I love the conversation. And Kyle and Eli, I wish you all the best.
Awesome. Thanks, man. We appreciate you.
Thanks for being here.
Nailed it.
That was
completely nailed
amazing.
it. Yes.
I'm so pumped.
Attention management. I don't know why I've never heard that term before. That's weird. I feel like maybe that's something the whole world knows and I don't know it, but I love that term. Because we're constantly talking about time management and time blocking and all that stuff. But, attention management.
It felt like we were kind of going through a solo retreat debrief with somebody, or like maybe like a higher level coach debrief where they've gone through our program and they're throwing out words that you and I talk about all the time. That was awesome. Excited.
Well, awesome. For those of you that have tuned in, make sure to check out Jason's website. Head on over there if you want to get a dose of him. I'm sure he's more than happy to have a conversation with you. And if you have not yet, please subscribe to the Peak Podcast, where we have amazing guests just like Jason every single episode. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode of the Peak Podcast.